Alright, so let me clear up some things first. Typically in this series in which I look into the CC community, slight rebrand by the way, I'll dedicate the video towards discussing flaws of a YouTuber in a critical and insightful manner so that they can better learn for future videos and can better improve their content overall. However, as of March 1st, 2019, and as far as I'm aware, STAXLOTL has quit doing commentaries altogether. While I don't believe he's publicly announced this himself, I can say that from talking to him personally, this has been a long time coming for him, and he's moved on to bigger, better projects. Ones that fulfill his creative desires as a content creator. So, here's the deal. Instead of constructing my video over this idea of helping him improve his content any further when he doesn't intend on going further with it himself, I'm going to construct my video in such a way as to help warn anybody watching over the dangers of inconsistency, so on so forth. I intend on making my case by discussing STAXLOTL's rise, his peak, and his downfall as a commentator, explaining why and how he fell from grace in the way that he did. However, there in itself lies a problem. I'd say I've been both his editor and his friend for a little while now, and due to that, I personally believe that I have the most credibility in this scenario, just because we talk a lot and in our discussions we talk about where to take our videos in the future. However, because I respect his privacy and I trust him just as he trusts me to maintain each other's privacy, I'm not going to be leaking DMs or showcasing projects that STAXLOTL does not want me to showcase. This becomes a problem because it means that some of the stuff I say will end up looking anecdotal, which is not my intent. So, as much as I hate to say it, you'll have to take my word for certain concepts I'll be bringing up. However, I can also attest that I've known STAXLOTL for a while now, and I hope that if I do get anything wrong, he will be the one to call me out for it since he'd know best anyways, and he is the fucking YouTuber I'm critiquing. So, with all that said, let's take a look into the humble beginnings of a young Axolotl.
Heat like Clint Eastwood's reborn. Leaving with more holes than a dartboard. Haters watch them, Tennessee double shot and drink like the answer to the problems at the bottle's bottom. From the bottom top that homie pay how you want me. My niggas take no like Kobe. Even with the arms of the hawk, you couldn't hold me from getting mine. So as we roll, smoking and getting by. Thanks rap, I ain't got a dime. Got me sneaking out of checkout lines with bottles by the wayside. Yeah, smack them in the face, let them taste pride. Fakes try, end up washed up like the shorelines. Do or die, ride, how the tip return, street turns. Keep me in this dirt like an earthworm. Woody spit hits and bros with brothers ever learn. Word for word, champ with a nerve, meeting adjourned.
STAXLOTL's first video as a commentator is a video that's since then been unlisted called The Ranting Community Isn't Dying, It's Imploding, uploaded March 19th, 2018. While the video itself isn't all too great or astounding, it does set the foundations of what would define Stax's aesthetic. Most notably, he portrayed himself as a humanoid axolotl sporting a green t-shirt and a fish tank. Now this might not sound like much because it really wasn't at the time, but he would later evolve these assets to such a point where he created his own style of commentary entirely. He wasn't a Turkey Tom clone, or an LS Mark clone, or an I Hate Everything clone, or anything else. He was his own STAXLOTL. Conversely, he would also begin implementing actual animation into his commentary videos, something which hadn't been previously done before, or at least to the extent Stax did it in. This entirely new variable of movement made him automatically stick out from the rest of his commentary contemporaries like Just a Robot, Ponder Sprocket, Manga Common, etc. And the actual format of his commentaries is what topped it all off to allow him to succeed and get as far as he did. Instead of focusing on one topic to attack and relentlessly criticize, much like more popular commentators he was competing against, he instead took the neutral route most of the time and delivered his commentary in an insightful, respectful manner. The best example of this would be his video on Speechy. While everyone else was tearing into her content and was making a case against her, STAXLOTL actually took the approach of actually reviewing her content and giving a level-headed, objectively constructed critique. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not implying these other videos on Speechy are better or worse. That's up to you to decide. But regardless, it was refreshing to see somebody looking into her content for what it was instead of repeating what's already been said, the latter of which being a very prevalent issue during the bandwagon against storytime animators. This sort of mentality would follow over to the rest of his content and is what allowed him to gain a few thousand subscribers in such a short time span with such few videos. However, 2 videos in particular would later give him a massive boost in subscribers and would be responsible in him getting the recognition he now holds today. His Wolfie Chew video uploaded to Just a Robot's channel, and his Papa Timmy video featuring Turkey Tom. His Papa Timmy video, released in July 2018, would be an interesting piece in his catalog specifically. Mostly because it was not only his most popular for a while and is what set him on the map, but also because it's the video that would veer away the most from what he's typically known for. Instead of giving insightful commentary, he uses his mostly neutral tone of voice to create a condescending attitude and doesn't really say anything insightful to Timmy himself. As well as experimenting with his personality in this way, he also began experimenting with transitions and pacing. This indicated that he clearly wanted to do more with his content considering how experimental and different this video was, but it was also clear that he didn't entirely know where or how he was going to go about experimenting with his channel. This is evident from how much he still tries to keep the same environment he uses for his other videos while still applying it to a video that tonally contrasts the rest. This would become an ongoing theme in the future and would do his YouTube personality great harm in regards to expanding any further, but I digress. Looking into his other video, his Wolfie Chew video on Jar's channel, this one better reflected his normal content, and I think it contributed more so into his growth as it both showcases animation and his unique approach to criticism. Once again, a major selling point for his channel. Both of these things combined allowed STAXLOTL to see massive growth in popularity in such a short time, and allowed for STAXLOTL to hit his peak. From July to September of 2018, STAXLOTL would hit his peak in popularity. This is both from the 2 previous videos I mentioned, but also due to certain circumstances within the community. Around this time, the storytime animator hate bandwagon consumed a large portion of the commentary community. So, by inadvertently already focusing his channel around reviewing storytime animators, it basically gave him a few months worth of free publicity. But, like I said before, the other traits he previously established for himself would often end up contributing both to the conversation and the perception of the common audiences to the topics he'd talk about. This, alongside massive improvements over his character animation, background editing, and so on, eventually led him to reach 15,000 subscribers in no time. This all added up to a relatively positive reception from the general audiences, and resulted in a lot of the people he would talk about to even comment on his critiques, acknowledging and appreciating the work he's dedicated towards making these videos. So now he was getting recognized by the commentary community and the storytime community, was regularly getting around 70,000 to 90,000 views, and had been engaging with his audience more so. This was done by reviewing his fans' channels, commenting on other people's videos, and holding polls on his Twitter. But out of all the videos he uploaded during this time, there was one in particular that sort of flew under the radar that I felt could have been a perfect video to indicate future success and growth of his channel had he continued to play off of it. That being his Tim Tom video. What made this video so special, you may ask? Well, the video was centered around one central idea, the flaws and possible dangers of being famous by association. Now, he did try to make a video centered around certain concepts before, but this video felt refined and polished in execution. Now, you may be asking why this is important in the first place. Simply put, when you focus on concentrating your critiques down to one point, you're able to better expand and dive into said point way more than if you would have gone over the entire situation. Because when looking into the greater picture, you're bound to miss some details here and there that could either make or break your argument. A great example of this that I've made before on this channel is the Turkey Tom storytime video versus the LS Mark storytime video. Mark's was made to critique the community as a whole, and in doing so, skewed over certain important details while not looking into or balancing out others. Tom's video, on the other hand, had a centralized concept and therefore not only felt more thematically appropriate to what Tom was going for, but also relayed back the perfect amount of information that he needed. This stuff is important to making an argument, so to see STAXLOTL taking this approach to centralizing core concepts Well, it was an exciting promise. And yeah, once again, he's done this before, but this was the most polished iteration of him attempting this. But there was one speed bump in the way of his success. One that should have stayed as this minor thing, but would later enforce the downfall of STAXLOTL as a consistent reviewer. A small commentator known by the name Professor KEKOA'S. Now, if you're new to this channel, holy shit, you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. To condense it down into a nice little Sparks Note summary, during some point in October, a now defunct former commentator named Professor KEKOA'S made a video harshly critiquing STAXLOTL. This video was controversial for a while due to figures like me and Ghost.exe being critical towards it. And yeah, it wasn't very good. Although I think I did a poor job at reviewing the video, I still think that this is a terrible critique of STAXLOTL that was both an incoherent mess and a poor attempt to expose Stax as a lackluster commentator. The video was not only harshly criticized by the community, but it received mostly negative to mixed reception over the duration of the original upload. So with all of this video shouldn't have been an issue, right? Well, after STAXLOTL himself saw the video, his entire perception on his content seemed to take a shift from an optimistic outlook to a pessimistic realization. He didn't like his personality and wanted to change up his content. This in itself isn't a bad thing. In fact, Stax has attempted this before with aforementioned Papa Timmy video or even a storytime video that's since then been removed. But the two biggest problems with those videos are the apparent confusion on where or how to expand his content without breaking away from his already established persona. And this issue would increase tenfold by the time STAXLOTL began forcing himself to pick up new forms of content. This is because he suddenly came to a realization and wanted to make abrupt improvements rather than letting these things improve over time and naturally evolve. This is what sparked an inconsistent personality, and from this, STAXLOTL only began falling from there. But from that, a new question persists. Why did this happen? We know that he didn't seem to appreciate his content any longer, and that's not me speaking from perspective of knowing him. He made it very clear how he felt over Twitter. But what we don't know is what shifted his opinion so abruptly in such a short amount of time. Sure, you could just say it was KEKOA'S video, but there's more behind it than just that. So, what's the issue? Well, I have two theories on this, and they both kind of work together. For one, he was growing genuinely tired of what he had been doing. This seems evident in how common he would experiment with certain things in his videos, albeit while playing mostly minor roles in the videos themselves. This include new styles of argumentation, an occasional outlier video like his Steven Universe review or his Fully Cooley video, the occasional implementation of opening skits, some more outlier videos such as his Storytime Animator video. Yeah, you get the picture. But don't forget that these are mostly minor changes that don't need to diverge too far away from his pre-established format, which is what would really make the next couple of videos unique in the sense that they were completely different. The second theory is one in regards to hypersensitivity. This was an idea that was addressed in a video made by a relatively unknown YouTuber named Noah KEKOA in his video critiquing STAXLOTL. His theory claims that STAXLOTL cares way too much about what other people think, and it's resulted in him unlisting and removing a lot of videos that made him, in a sense. While his theory was mostly applied in a different context, it seems to hold up here just as well. And while I don't think the hypersensitivity theory is the dominant gene in this situation, it seems suspicious to me just due to the timing of STAXLOTL's sudden desire to change his content in juxtaposition to when KEKOA'S released his video. This is further supported when you realize that some of the most controversial videos he's made, like Matt Pat video or his Papa Timmy video, are specifically unlisted. So now that we have these two theories in play that could possibly explain why this happened, what do we do from here? Where could we possibly go from here? course of November to January, Stax would experiment with 5 different types of content that I'm aware of off the top of my head. The first type were reminiscent of couch let's plays on an alternative channel called STAXLOTL Plays that stopped uploading around 2 to 3 months ago. The second type of content was the closest thing he'd get to making another traditional STAXLOTL review. However, the major difference here was his approach to line delivery. Of course, I'm referring to his Something Else YT review. He took on the task of inducing more personality into his videos, but went about this by just increasing his normal voice's volume, increasing his pitch, and talking a little faster. This meant that a lot of his videos' delivery felt unnatural, spastic, and overall stilted compared to his older videos in which he sounds much more relaxed and calm, which acted as a nice representation of how his reviews played out in the first place. The third instance was a much more obscure event because STAXLOTL never published it as a video. He only hinted at it on Twitter and recorded the audio for it. As far as I'm aware, only me and possibly the name is Junkie have ever even heard it. It was pretty much an improvised rant with a more satirical edge to it, being much more vulgar and in your face than what he was known for. And this isn't a problem in itself, but once again, he wasn't known for this sort of thing. It was the polar opposite of what he established himself as, and would have definitely turned a lot of fans away if he decided to publish it. Basically put, it was a terrible way to ease fans into newer content. The fourth attempt is by far the most consistent on his channel following the Katoonster video. The 2 videos criticizing MatPat and a critique on the Nostalgia Critic. These videos were interesting as they by nature required a new editing style and briefly formed an entirely new aesthetic more accustomed to a Turkey Tom video, while still keeping enough of STAXLOTL's personality to be vaguely related to the channel. On top of that, these videos felt more natural because Stax was able to form a solid in-between from his normal reviews and his Something Else YT review. It was for sure a positive start to reinforcing a new style of content without turning too many fans away at once. I personally believe that these were some of his best videos from both an editing standpoint and from the standpoint of him wanting to balance out his personality with his pre-established status as a reviewer. But eventually, for one reason or another, he gave up on that style of content altogether. And with his latest video, formed a 5th new style that he intends on using for now: Facecam Improv, which introduces new issues, but I'll leave Noah KEKOA to that one. Link to his video in the description. On top of all that, he's also talked about adapting my Article Atrocity series into his own format, something which I'm not opposed to as long as he keeps it his own thing, but it has yet to happen, and is something he never publicly announced himself. So that makes for about 5, almost 6 different ways he's experimented with new content within the span of 3 months. This is an issue because by failing to identify with one specific content format and sticking to it, you're only guaranteed to slowly lose relevance and start losing your audience that you've built up to over time. But most importantly, it's essential to understand from a creator standpoint because it shows that if you don't establish your personality ahead of time to where you're capable of changing your content without completely altering your persona, and if you ever want to branch out to different styles of content, you will suffer in the long run. Constantly being conflicted about where to go with your channel, constantly receiving an equal amount of positive and negative reception from your lack of consistency, but most importantly, constantly unsatisfied with what you're creating. I can sympathize with STAXLOTL over not being satisfied with what he's made and wanting to go further with his craft. However, his lack of foresight has really hurt him, and honestly, it's not exactly sure where to go from this point as far as audience retention goes, because that's the position he's set himself in. If you're going to create a new personality, you have to make sure it's not completely disingenuous, or else you'll be placed within a similar position as STAXLOTL. You also have to be careful about how much you care about what the audience says. You want to be able to balance out your happiness with the audience's entertainment. If you're not able to find a good middle ground, then you're going to end up miserable, or the audience will begin to hate you. Not saying that the audience hates STAXLOTL per se, but he definitely doesn't capture the same interest he used to during the peak of his channel. I can't really say I have anything else to add to this conversation by this point. All I can really do is wish that he's able to find enjoyment out of the newer content he creates and sticks by it. Likewise, I also hope that you, the viewer, are able to take away plenty from this video about the cautionary tale of losing your voice via inconsistency. If you'd like to support me to up the production value on future videos, I have a Patreon in the description. As for now though, this is Exro, telling you all to have a good night. Good night, Backlight.